Welcome, Skiff fans. It has finally arrived. It's day one of the 2019 JJ Giltinan Skiff Championships held in Double Bay, Sydney, Australia. With me today, I have got the skipper of Rag and Famish, that's Bryce, stood here, and we've got, most importantly, we have the daily sponsor and the sponsor of this boat. This is Pete and his son George, and their family have been involved in sponsoring skiffs for a very long time. I'll talk to him in 1 second, but just before that, just to remind you, we will be live on the racecourse from the Camera Cat at 2:30 local time Sydney. That's 15 minutes from now, and the race itself starts at 2:45. Join us at 2:30 live in the Camera Cat. Guys, it's going to be a big day, isn't it? Race one, 9 races, 1 discard. Bryce, you got plenty on today.
Yeah, plenty on. I think this week is tough for everybody generally, but today, yeah, the nerves are pretty high, I'd imagine, for most, and looking forward to getting out there and getting the first race out of the road. Now,
you are holding the mantle of Rag and Famish, one of the oldest sponsors for the fleet. How does it feel? You're following some big names, aren't you?
Oh, huge names, yeah. We're very privileged to be in this situation. It's our second year on the Rag this year. Following Jack and the boys previous to us, they had a very good result in their last JJ, so yeah, trying to hold the mantle up. And
John Harris and Scott Babbage, it's just like a who's who, isn't it? Pete Calligeros, Pete, your family's started sponsoring this event, was it 20 years ago? How did it all start?
I was actually walking my dog down here in Double Bay Park. I hadn't been on a skiff for quite some time, and a guy was screamed out he was looking for a crew, and I stuck my hand up and jumped on it, and I sort of spent most of the afternoon upside down off the Kentucky Fried out there, and then came back, and he invited me back next week, and so the system began. And yeah, and sort of got into it and made it work my way up through a few crews.
And at what point did Rag and Famish become the sponsor?
We just finished a European Grand Prix. We went over there and was sponsored by Slam. We came home with a boat and we didn't have any sponsor. And the old man basically sort of gave us enough money to put a lick of paint and some signage for his hotel on it, and which kept us out there for the season, which was good. And then and he wanted to win. He didn't think he was going to win with me. So he punted me and went on, and I think that's when he got Johnny Harris. I think was the first, yeah, Johnny Harris, and off he went on his crusade.
So that was your father, George, and you've obviously been involved in skiffs, and your son, George Jr. over here. George, are you planning to sell the skiff too?
Yeah, I'd like to, if I can. Probably get into it, and yeah, hopefully I can.
They're pretty cool boats, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really fun and cool, so.
Well, look, the racing starts today, race 1 of our series, and of course it goes on for 11 days. There's 9 races in total, 1 discard. Racing starts today. Today it gets serious after yesterday. And today's race is brought to you by Rag and Famish, our sponsor of, I think, 20 plus years. Yeah. Thanks to Rag and Famish. By the way, it's a top pub hotel up in North Sydney, and no harm in getting out there and testing out their hospitality. See you on the racecourse soon. So welcome, Skiff fans, back to the park at Double Bay. I've got with me the familiar figure of David McDermott, Honda Marine, as you can see. And as most of you will know, he is our current JJ champion. Won the event last year, David. You're back this year to defend. And what are your thoughts so far?
First of all, I'm back with the other two guys I sail with. It's not just me by my own. Thought so far is yesterday was a good little practice day. The harbour was nice and clear, so we actually got some good kind of testing in and a little bit of a check-in, so that's really good.
Excellent. And last year, obviously, the Aussies were maybe a little surprised to lose their hold on the event. They've had for I don't know how many years, but you guys were 1 and 2 last year, reasonably dominant. What's changed since last year? Do you feel there's going to be a similar pattern, or what's going to be the difference?
Not much has changed from our point of view. We've pretty much prepared the same we prepared last year and the year before and the year before that. We've been knocking on the door a couple of years, and last year we pretty much got the monkey off the back, so we're looking forward to just having a little bit of fun this time and sailing around the course and, out of our own kind of free will and see how we go.
And yesterday we had a practice race called the Invitation Race, 25 boats on the start line. That's a few more boats than you're used to sailing with at Auckland. Does it feel different?
Yeah, I think for sure. Definitely 25 boats. That was really good to have a couple of practice races. We would have preferred just to keep doing that all day. We didn't really need to sail around any marks because we can do that by ourselves at home. So it was a really good practice day yesterday. It's perfect for us. Awesome.
And it's a long way out, this regatta, but who do you expect to be the main competition this year?
Obviously Josh and Jack and Hoffman on ASEC, because last year they pushed us with 1 point. ASCO looks to be the form boat over here. There's a couple of new teams that have been here before, but new this year. Everyone's put on a bit of effort this time, so it's good to see.
I certainly have. Look, David, you're a worthy winner last year, and best of luck this year. Looking forward to the event.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
So welcome back, Skiff fans. We're back in the boat park, having had a quick chat with the current JJ champion, Honda Marine from New Zealand. Here I've got Keegan York, one of the very top Aussie boats right now. Keegan, it's a big challenge taking on these Kiwis. They know what they're up to, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely do. They sailed very well in the practice race yesterday, no mistakes, and sort of made us look silly a couple of times, but I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, this year it feels like the Aussie fleet recovering from maybe a bit of a bashing last year by the Kiwis. Things look a lot sharper at the front of the Aussie fleet. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of the Australian guys have put in a lot of effort coming into this JJs. Unfortunately, we haven't done much training, but we've made sure that what we have done during race days is, been all about this week.
And you've looked fast all the time.
Yeah, we've got a lot of support from Flipper and Nick, so we talk a lot during the week about the rigs and stuff, and we were a bit slow fishing other stuff yesterday morning, so we didn't get to play with our rig like we were tending to before the race. So we did it afterwards, and we think we should be a lot better with big rig today.
And you're clearly one of the top Aussie boats. Who else would you put in the top of the Aussie fleet as well?
I think winnings groups, I reckon they've made a really big jump. Obviously, having a couple of full-time crew and a couple of full-time support people certainly helps. ASCO, I'm a bit worried about all the chopping and changing they've done of recent. I think Smeg will come good, even though they had a couple of run-ins yesterday. But yeah, winning group's my dark horse.
Awesome. Well, we've certainly got some top Aussie boats at the front of the fleet at this event. You're here to win it, aren't you?
Certainly going to be trying, that's for sure.
Well, Keegan, best of luck. It's been an impressive season by you so far. Let's see if you can bring it home today.
Excellent. Thank you.
Welcome to Sydney Harbour. Welcome Skiff fans, sailing fans, sports fans all around the world. Today's the day we've been waiting for some time. It's the 2019 JJ Giltinan Skiff Championship sailed at a double bay on glorious Sydney Harbour. Today is day one. It is March the 2nd. We have 9 races coming away. First point scoring race today. Race starts in 15 minutes. That's 2:45 local time in Sydney Harbour. 15 minutes from now. With me on the camera cat, I have got our regular expert driver, Jimmy Bury. Jimmy, welcome.
Yeah, Mark.
And on the other side of me, I've got a guest. We're going to have a different guest every day. Today we have got Graham Catley from New Zealand, a skiff sailor himself and someone who's been fundamental to the resurgence in skiff racing in New Zealand. We'll talk to him a little bit later on, but let's get straight onto the course for today. It's looking like it's a northeasterly. Jimmy, maybe we can have a look at the course graphic and you can talk us through that course.
Yep, Mark, g'day. Today's course, yeah, definitely course 1 northeast. So they start down here at Clark Island, work their way all the way up to the Beachel Buoy, round Shark Island, then run all the way back down here to Clark Island, around the mark here. They go back up to the Beachel Buoy, around the Beachel Buoy, and they come straight back down to Clark Island for the second time. And they work back uphill, back up to the Beachel Buoy for the third time, around Shark Island and through to the finish where we'll see the winner of Heat 1.
So same course as yesterday, and
Same
it's
course.
what people call the classic Sydney Harbour course.
Love the good nor'easter on Sydney Harbour.
Now, Graham, this is a course that you've done quite a lot of times as a skiff sailor yourself, and of course you've watched closely the performance of the Kiwis. It's the kind of day you'd like to be on a skiff?
This course is absolutely legendary, you know, to get from around Shark Island is just amazingly difficult.
But today, there's a lot of boats on the harbour, and I know it's a Saturday, very busy Saturday on Sydney Harbour. You'd expect it, but there's a bunch of regattas looking upwind as we are right now. And you guys are looking at Yandu on screen, but we're looking upwind. There's just hundreds of boats out there.
It's tough. It's really, really tough for particularly the visiting crews. I'm looking upwind here as well, and you virtually can't see the land in front of you because so many sails.
It is crazy busy. Look, yesterday we had the invitation race. The reigning champion Honda led the race until she decided to not complete the course. Then it was Finport led, and then in the end it was Winning Group who was the winner. And we had a quick chat with Winning Group after the race yesterday, and now we're going to take a quick look at a quick chat I had with John Winning Jr. about their race win yesterday. Welcome Skiff fans, I'm here with John Winning Jr. on the invitation race of kind of day one, nearly day one, the phony war. John, tell us about the race.
I don't know, I mean, we won it, but it was really a third. I think the first two, going with that superstition of not crossing the line or not finishing. I think I've seen enough of them when someone's done that and had a shocking regatta. So actually, to be fair, we didn't know that Finport had done that, but we're happy to take the win on that one. And the race was good, you know, we started off reasonably strongly. I think we were probably somewhere between 5 and 10 off the start, took a few sterns and then got back in the lead. Could have done the top half of the first work a lot better. And we hung in there always around sort of that 3rd to 5th kind of positioning. And we just stuck with them. Sometimes the guys behind us got closer, sometimes we got a little bit of a piece of the guys in front. And, I think we're reasonably happy with the day. Could be a lot worse. I think there's some pretty good crews that didn't have a result like ours, so we're happy.
And you made a really big gain on one of the downwinds. A lot of the guys jibe setted, fairway set. That was a significant moment.
Yeah, it was interesting. We looked at it and looked at the breeze, and obviously there was a big header on port, so we just decided to set. It was decent breeze, and we were aiming at the bottom mark, so pretty hard to do better than that around the top mark for a dead square run.
And then Shark Island for the last time, you were the only boat that didn't drop the spinnaker. Was that Big Sam, or was it all three of you saying?
I think Sam was, he'd had enough of dropping the chute. We had the first one when we dropped it, we had a little prawn in the water, and I think he rather just muscle up and take it on with the kite up than have to run in and drop it down and put it back up again. So we all put in and we got there. It was sort of good communication between Sebi and Sam, working the sails and got around.
So a pretty nice first day for you guys.
Yeah, we're reasonably happy. I think it was a nice solid sail, and we're confident going into tomorrow, I guess, into the weekend.
I know you guys are up to this regatta. You're fully prepped. You've done some good training. I think you can win this.
It's only the 4th time the 3 of us have sailed together this year. Yeah, so we did 2 races together, and 2 training sessions. So the 5th time was sailing together as a team. So hopefully we'll keep getting better and better as the days go on. Yeah, we're, I wouldn't say fully prepped, and I don't know if I'm in my best form ever, but, you know, had a couple of years off before this, but I'm really enjoying being back into it. And yeah, it's great sailing with a couple of mates.
Well, a great job today, good performance, good luck the rest of the series starting tomorrow, the real game tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely, looking forward to it. Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Cheers.
So that was John Winning Jr., winner of the invitation race, and a winning group, the sponsor of this event overall, thanks to them. Today, each day has a race sponsor, and today's race sponsor is Rag and Famish, that fine hotel and bar up in North Sydney, and one of the longest running sponsorships in the Skiff class. Jimmy, have you had a few beers up there?
Had definitely a few beers up at the Rag and Famish, and absolutely love the place.
And they've had an amazing history in racing. They've had some great crews, John Harris and Scott Babbage, or that whole era, and Jack McCartney more recently, and now Bryce Edwards is taking it on, and he's looking pretty tidy. He's got a nice crew together, hasn't he?
Yeah, they're sailing really well, and thanks to Pete Calligeros for his continued sponsorship in the Rag and Famish group. They're amazing sponsors, but the boys that are sailing the Rag and Famish are doing really well this season. They're being consistent. They're just off the podium every week, so hopefully they can climb into the podium this week, which is the important week.
Yeah, this is what it all counts for. And in terms of a New Zealand cruise, Graham, at the moment, we'll talk about the Aussies in a second. But going into this event, you've got the current champion Honda. How else would you rate the rest of the Kiwi team? So where would you put the pecking order, particularly on a day like today? Let's just really talk about today for now rather than the overall series. So day like today, what are we? Big rigs, the whole fleet's on big rigs. It's up and down, gear changing. How would you assess the performance of the individual Kiwi boats?
Well, it's pretty simple, Mark, actually. Is the boat crew that has worked the hardest to get here usually is the best boat, and so you look at Honda. Honda crew have worked really, really hard coming over here, and then you've got Alex has also been working really, really hard, and
that's C-Tech, isn't it? Alex
C-Tech,
who looked pretty slippery yesterday.
Yeah, he looked okay yesterday. And then, of course, Josh Peribsky in the SCC gets a little bit distracted with 49er sailing, but there's some good aspects of that 49er sailing which they bring into the 18s as well, and that's why they're doing really well. And the Maersk Line guys are relatively new to the class, and so they're over here on a bit of a learning curve. So that's what we've got.
Yeah, well, they all looked, the whole lot of them looked pretty impressive yesterday, and obviously particularly David McDermott's team on Honda Marine. Tell me just briefly, the other two crewmen sailing with David. We always talk about David per se, but we know the boat handling is super slick, so it's clearly a three-man team, isn't it?
Oh, well, I've got to crack a bit of a joke here. Brad Collins, who's the bowman, sailed with me, and he would affectionately tell you that I taught him all he knows. So that's
good job, good teacher.
And Matty Stevens is a long-time boaty sailor. He also works in at North Sail, so he's incredibly helpful to us in developing the speed of the boats.
So, good all-round team. We're expecting good things from Honda, but there are 25 boats in total, 24 others intending to make life hard for them and give themselves a shot at it. Jimmy, I'm going to ask you sort of the unreasonable question, which is, apart from Honda, already looking good, who else is, just give me one or two boats maximum, who you think is going to be there at the end of the series?
Oh, look, from the Kiwis, obviously, as you said, the Honda, but the ASCC definitely, I think, will be there. I think you'll find they were the Maersk crew from last season. From the Aussies, obviously, ASCO, they're sailing exceptionally well. A few little dramas here and there. Finport, can Keegan put a whole series together? That's the question. He's sailing really well. And the other one, Winning Group. The locked-in crew there of John Winning Jr., Sevi Jarvan and Sammy Newton. Like, that is a powerhouse crew combination with a lot of JJ experience under their belt and titles. And it feels like they're getting just a little bit better and better all the time, doesn't it? Just back to ASCA, you mentioned they've had a few dramas getting here. Talk us through that. Oh, they've had a few dramas. One of their coaches, per se, or one of the fathers, Trevor Barnabas, he got held up running a little bit late yesterday to get the centre boards down to the boys after they ran aground last Thursday training. Trevor put the wrong fuel in the truck on the way down, and the truck didn't move too much further past that. But and then yesterday they had a bit of a rigging issue where their D1s weren't paralleling up, so they get wound onto a certain tension, and it wasn't setting up as what they planned, and so they had to take the boat this morning down to True Flow Sales at Brookvale and get Baz to sort out the rig and sort out their heads.
So not the smoothest way into a series. ASCO is our current Australian and New South Wales champion. They've had a really good run of form. If you haven't been following the Skiffs for the last month or two, they have been the form boat, but it sounds like they've had a couple of days of drama. We'll see if they can get their heads straight after that. The warning signal was the sound you heard about 40 seconds ago. So in about 10 seconds time, 12 seconds time, you're going to hear the prep, which is the 4-minute gun. You can look at the boat there. You're seeing the 5 flags. We're back to the old 5 flag equals 5 minutes. You're about to have, there you go, 4 minutes. 1 flag gets removed. That's 4 minutes to go until the start. The Sydney Harbour is very, very busy. It would be hard to overstate that. There's a full-size Etchells fleet just setting up to leeward at the start line. There's ferries left, right and centre. There's a 30-boat laser fleet just to windward. There's the historical skiffs up there, and there's all manner of keel boats. Sydney's always busy, Jimmy, isn't it? But to be honest, this is super busy, and it's going to be a boat management issue.
Absolutely, it's like a year's eve of sailboats on the harbour, Mark.
It is, it's crazy. Graham, last time you were racing, you would have experienced something like this. Does it kind of fry your brain, or do you see it as a potential advantage if you can pick your way through?
I don't think you ever get away with just picking your way through, and you just get surprised the whole time, and it's the crew that can handle that surprise calmly will do very well out of it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. You just got to expect the unexpected.
Do they have that sort of traffic where they sail on the 18s over in New Zealand, Graham?
No, not at all. We have quite a big expanse of water, and we don't have quite so many boats. So,
so short answer, definitely not. No. So there's Honda Marine just sizing up the windward end of the line. We're now inside 3 minutes. Will we get around the first start? Well, possibly. It's quite a long line. We can see the pin end of the line. It's a fair way down there. The line looks plenty long enough for the 25-boat fleet. The weather is looking like it's been up and down. Just to give you a quick summary, about about an hour ago, the crews couldn't decide between big rigs and small rigs. They all went with big rigs. 10 minutes later, of course, the breeze came up. It always does that, doesn't it? They're all thinking, shall we change? Well, luckily they didn't, because the breeze then dropped down again. So we're seeing somewhere around in the lulls, and the soft stuff is right down at about 8 knots, 9 knots. In the puffs, we're up at about 14, 15, and that is right through the crossover between big and small rigs. Graham, the good news, though, is that these boats have now got more adjustment on the rigs, haven't they? More so maybe than when you last sailed one.
Yes, I think that was a smart thing to do, because it just extends the range, and so if you get a little bit caught out with your one rig on, you can depower it a lot better than you used to be able to.
So we are getting close to into the 1 minute gun. We've got about 1 minute 30 seconds to go till the start. We're going to start seeing how these boats line up. We know that typically on this race course, getting into Bradley's Head all the way into the bricks on a long starboard tack usually works. The left-hand side is where you want to be. Today, though, there's an especially large amount of traffic on the left-hand side of the race course. So that might become a reason why we see the boats stepping out away from the hard left of the race course. But the start is pretty much the same. If you can, you want to be first into Bradley's, tack before that little vacuum of breeze that we often talk about, and we'll get into that as the race develops, and then try and come out on port. 1 minute gun. Everyone is present and correct. We have got, just seeing on camera there, that's the pin end. There's a cruising boat finishing a different race, different to ours. And we're going to hopefully our skiffs can keep out of the way. Our pin end is that black and white checkered buoy. ASCC down the leeward end, winning group who'd made a great start at the pin end yesterday, are both looking like they're competing for the same space. ASCO couple up to windward. Down at the far end is Kitchen Maker as well, Merskline, Bingley. Well, you can see them all lining up down there. Up back at our end, we're up at the committee boat end of the line, as we've got just 25 seconds to go. We've got Noakes at this end, Dalzotto, Coopers, Lumix, Finport, one of the top Aussie boats, is lingering with some kind of intent up here at the committee boat. She's found a little gap, so she looks like she could put the the hammer down at just the right moment with about 7 seconds to go. Things are looking a little bit tight down the pin end. ASVC and Winning Group fighting hard to try and not be over early. It's ASVC. Have got that pin. There is the start. Only one gun, 2 guns.
Individual.
Just an individual recall. Well, that looked relatively well behaved. So up at the committee boat end, it's Yandu and Noakes Marine hard right, literally taking the paint off the committee boat. Down at the Lewin end, it was a Winning Group and an ASCC battle to win the pin. ASCC controlled things very nicely. Both of those boats in pretty good shape down the left end. Very early days, but surprisingly, maybe, Graham, to me, we got a clean start on the first start.
Well, did we? I thought there was a second gundy.
Cleanish, not a general recall, anyway.
No, not a general recall, but someone's over and no one's going back, so...
Well, the rumour is ASCO. They're the one that we thought were nudging their bow out.
So the 2 boats that were over, I'm just listening on the radio, Mark, is ASCO and ASCC.
So ASCC, that were battling to win that pin, battled just a bit too hard. Well, that's not going to be the start of the regatta that either of those 2 boats want. Remember, there's only 1 discard in this event, and none of them are going back, and even if they went back now, they'd have an awfully big battle to get back through. So 9 races, 1 discard, and it looks like both ASCO and ASCC have now used up that discard, and the importance of that is they are very much 2 of our front runners. I mean, super early days, Graham, but early advantage to Honda Marine just because of the 2 recall boats that haven't gone back.
You may have seen it on screen that Honda Marine was taking a very cautious approach, and I think that they can work their way out of trouble, and so they took a very cautious approach. I think it was a smart thing to do.
We're taking a little look on the drone shot at that leeward end of the line, and not surprisingly, ASCC, we didn't see exactly how far she was over. You might have seen it at home more clearly on the drone, but over is over, and ASCC leading on the water, but we are reasonably confident that she has been recalled. When we get total confirmation, we'll let you know. That is the early call from the committee boat, but we will double check that. We don't want to lead you guys all astray at home. But at this point in time, we believe that ASCO and ASCC, both of which are performing very nicely at the left end of this fleet, are almost certainly both going to be disqualified. So, assuming that is the case, it's Winning Group in great shape. Bingley in a bit of dirt behind them, hanging on in there. Just up to windward of ASCO is Armory Pitwater, Simon Nern's guys, who performed extremely well yesterday for the first half of the race, then fell off the planet on the second half a little bit. But yet again, he's looking pretty competitive early on in this race. But Jimmy, this is not a standard northeasterly. They are clearing Bradley's Head by several hundred metres. There's a bit of right in this.
Bit of right like yesterday, but also our start today, Mark, was a lot further over towards Point Piper because of these other races that are going on the harbour. So we've got to fight for a bit of space to get our start line in. But it's unusually a long way right the breeze today, so they'll easily clear the Bradley's Head Reef, the majority of the fleet anyway.
Yeah, you're right. The whole geometry, isn't it, just changed completely because of where the start was. So that means that they're clearing Bradley's Head and they can get into at least the first, if not the second bay, on the north side of Sydney Harbour. Yep. So it's all going to be a little bit different. And the skiff sailors here, we pretty much always start in the same place on a northeasterly. They've kind of got like a playbook of what you have to do. Well, you're going to have to use a different playbook today that probably evens things out with people who don't sail here so often. So our German boat we have an American boat with us, we have an English boat, and of course we have a handful of extremely fast Kiwis. So the Australian advantage being maybe slightly nullified by the start line position. We're looking closely here at the Germans and Vintec just up to windward. It's Marine Pool, the German boat, and Vintec just up to windward. Just choosing a moment maybe to bail out of here. And for us in front of us, we've just got Birkenhead Marina, who've just tacked just off the rocks. A really nice tack. And now it's a port starboard, calling water on the way out of the rocks. Well, it's slightly optimistic call. Well, and you call it for the first few seconds, but you can't carry on port, although you can try it. If the other guys tack away, then so be it. Anyway, Birkenhead and Marina continue over. But let's just take a little look at Honda Marine here, Graham. You were saying that they started conservatively. How are they doing at the moment, do you think? They're just holding a lane and they've got a little bit of space and they'll be happy with where things are?
Look, they're just trying to hold a lane, but Jared up above them looks like he's going like a rocket, so they're going to have to be careful. They're going to get sailed over, but they'll have to tack away, I guess.
Yeah, look, it's busy, isn't it? A lot of boats
Yeah.
crossing. That's Jared Simpson just to windward with a white sailed, clear sail boat, and just behind is Smeg. That's Michael Coxon and team, just having to eat some dirt. He's obviously determined to get to this side of the harbour. He's happy to follow behind two boats. That'll be costing him a little bit of distance, but he's pretty committed to which side of the harbour that he wants to get on. And ahead of these three boats is Asco, and up to windward and a little bit, well, on picture now, there's ASCC and Winning Group. They've come back for another stab at the left-hand side. They were the most two left-hand boats. They had to tack for water previously, but they've decided to come back in. So everybody really heading towards this side of the harbour, looking back over towards the right just to fill you in. There are a few boats who've gone hard right, but they're going to get caught up in an awful lot of traffic, and history tells us that the left side is likely to work. But one of those right-hand boats is Finport, typically one of the fastest Aussie boats. She's hard out on the right, not looking famous at this point, but there's so much separation between hard left and hard right. It's just going to depend, as it always does, on pressure, shifts, traffic, the usual smorgasbord of exciting fun we have here on Sydney Harbour.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a run out tide, so the guys over on the right of the course are going to get a little bit of a push up there with the tide rushing out. You know, the guys over here be out of the tide on the left-hand side where we are.
And for a busy harbour, Jimmy, it's actually on this side of the harbour, left-hand side, it's actually relatively flat water and relatively calm. Just right in front of us, Honda have just tacked in that flat water where we're just in front of us. Honda tacking out of there, just a little bit too much dirty air for David and his team. So Honda just steps out. It reminds me a bit of what happened yesterday, Graham, where Honda made a relatively conservative start, but just sort of used the boat speed and positioning to bit by bit get to the front of the fleet, and by the top mark they're in the top three.
I think it's always a situation where you've got to try and settle down out of the start, and they were trying to burn Smeg off there and force Smeg away so that they could tack, you know, and so they were going high and going a bit slow, and everything starts to not go so right. But just settle down, just get out of the start and settle down.
Yeah, and out on the left-hand side, there's Jared Simpson just on the on shot now, just to bring off the shot. That's ASCC, the guys we think are over the line. In front of them is Asco, the other one. But to windward of that group is Winning Group. So Winning Group, and then to windward of them there is R Marine just on picture, and Bing Lee briefly on picture. Those three are the leaders out of the left-hand side. So Winning Group, R Marine, Bing Lee, and in close proximity, Jared Simpson. That is the best of the left-hand group. Honda Marine tacking back out towards the middle, and on the hard right, it is Finport and it's Smeg. That is how it's shaping up for now. We're a little less than halfway up the first beat. Plenty of golf left in this hole. And actually, the busy harbour we talked about before, Graham, as if by magic, as if some biblical tale, it's clearing. And I'm seeing some space.
It is unbelievable, actually. There's quite a bit of empty water between here and the top mark. I can't believe it.
It's just come out of nowhere, isn't it? So we just got our camera on Noakes. That's Sean Langman. He's also heading towards the middle. He's just a little bit to leeward of Honda Marine. Well, he decides enough of that. He's going to tack back and get to the left. So Noakes Marine has had enough of the middle. Sean heads back towards the left-hand side, and we've just seen Smeg that's just passing behind the camera cat. She's decided to go to the left as well. Just to windward of her is Honda Marine. He's deciding that they've had enough of heading towards the middle. So out on the right-hand side, our lone brave boat is Finport. We haven't actually picked them up yet. They've been so far away, but we're on that side of the course. So Finport on the right-hand side. Again, I'm not that happy with their angle, Jimmy. They're not exactly super high, but they're trucking along, clear air, no boats around them. We know they've got boat speed. It's a chance to exercise the boat speed button without distractions. So Finport out on the right-hand side. In the middle is Honda Marine in clear air, middle of the racetrack, and on the left it's R Marine, Bingley and Winning Group, who are the best of the left-hand side, but they're all going to come together at the top mark. We're about 9-10 minutes sailing from the top mark for the first time. It's very hard to call it right now which way it's going to happen. Finport in front of us on camera. All they need, we've said this before, is a 10-degree righty and they'll look famous. And yesterday, Graham, you probably saw it, the right-hand side did pay. It didn't look good early on, but as we got closer and closer to the mark, the righties clicked in harder and harder.
It looks exactly the same today, to be honest, and they were just on a big lift, but they just dropped back to the other guys now, but they've come from nowhere, actually, out of the start.
Yeah, Finport decided to stick to the right. Maybe they were clear about their strategy. They thought the right would eventually come good. It didn't look at all good for them for the first half of the beat. But at this point in time, it's suddenly looking, I wouldn't say stellar, Graham, but it's looking all right, isn't it? And with a righty, they would look, of course, extremely clever, but who knows what's going to happen on the way up here. We did find yesterday that the boats in the middle of the course, which is kind of where they are now, sometimes neither got the righty on the right, nor did they get the pressure on the left. We'll have to see how Finport plays this.
It's interesting because Honda Marine's come through too, Mark, and they were pretty buried there for a while, but they've come through by sticking to the middle left, you know.
Well, boat speed, I suspect. I mean, they were in dirt. They got themselves out of the dirt, moved to the middle. They didn't want to go too far to the right, did they? That's for sure. As soon as they had a chance to tap back, they did. They have sailed in clear air now for the last 5 minutes plus. No battling with boats to find a lane. Just sail to your settings, sail to your numbers, and usually the sign of a fast boat is as soon as you do that, boom, you seem to be in the lead. Well, Honda Marine looking good. Finport, who actually were leading the race yesterday once Honda had retired, well, they're also looking good. It might well be we're right back to where we were yesterday. Fastest boats immediately popping to the front.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, and I think I said it before. Once you get out into a bit of clear air and you can settle down and you can get down to your business, and that's what's happening on all these top boats at the moment.
Yeah, we talked, Graham and I just were saying a few minutes ago how we couldn't believe how suddenly all the boats had disappeared, Jimmy. Well, that is the case, but I've got some news for everyone. Up at the Wimmer Mark, which I'm just looking out of the corner of my eye right now, there's a mass of keel boats. So they've had this little respite, a little bit of a gap, but I don't think that's going to be status quo today. There's going to be plenty of nip and tuck on other keel boats, and let's see how these skiffs wind their way through. This is going to be tricky, Jimmy.
It's all about boat management and making sure that just don't tack because that's where you want to tack. You've got to have a look and see where you've got your the other yachts, and you've got lasers, you've got the vintage 18s out here. You've got to make sure that you've got a clear track, and these it all comes down to race management. It's there's 3 guys on that boat. You've almost got to assign someone to be saying, yes, okay, we've got a clear lane, we can do this.
Yeah,
then it's going to get real hairy when we get to do the square run if all these boats are still out here, all these yachts are still out here.
So look at that, there's a statement of intent. Finport sailing along there, slowly falling down into the group to leeward. You probably saw them out of the corner of your eye, the rest on screen, the rest of the fleet, which is Honda Marine winning group down there. Finport decided they didn't like to look at that angle. They're going to go back to the right. I think they're looking for that righty out of Watson's Bay. And looking at Finport on camera now to the left, if you have a little look, you'll see a couple of cruising boats pretty high in the right, i.e. there's a right-hand shift out of Watson's Bay. I think Keegan has seen that. That's what he's going for.
Absolutely. Well, you've got appliances online, which is just going to come into shot here on the rider's shot just now. Like you just see them just falling out of that right-hand shift that you were just talking about, Mark. They're right up there in it.
And there's you're going to see Bingley too, just crossing appliances online. They've decided to go out and look for that righty on the right, I think, as well. The other issue also with the guys on the left is there's so much traffic. So the boats out of the left, that's Honda Marine, are currently the best. ASCC, ASCA, the 2 boats we think are going to be retired anyway, and the winning group, they've got an awful lot of traffic to get through out of that left-hand corner, and there's a lot to be said for just taking the right-hand side, just getting away from these boats.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll just get Pat to slowly pan around to his left on the camera here, just show all the traffic, and in amongst that traffic there's a couple of skiffs basically on the same line that these yachts are coming down in.
Well, that's right. We've got in front of us, you can see that ferry. And to the right of the ferry, you'll see a whole bunch of skiffs. And much further to the right are the leading group out of the left. They're all trying to find ley lines, but they've got keel boats tacking on them. They've got keel boats probably going to a very similar mark. The ley line is completely congested. But the starboard ley line, that's where Finport headed off to. So are Bingley going that way as well. It's not exactly going to be a walk in the park, Graham, is it, over there? But I reckon they fancy Watson's Bay for a bit of a righty. What do you reckon?
They look a little bit down at the moment, and my biggest concern here is that all these keel boats are coming down on starboard with their kites up, and we're going up on port. So it's not a good look, really, when you're trying to get around the top mark.
Well, and also what's going to happen downwind, Graham, is as you know all too well, you get a big blind spot, don't you, when you sail downwind in a skiff. It's one thing picking your way through these guys upwind, but you've got good visibility upwind, and the boat speed delta isn't that big over a cruising boat. Downwind, when the skiff's doing 3, 4, 5 times the speed of these keel boats, picking the way downwind, that is going to be another test of a whole nother type.
That's really scary, because often you might be able to hear someone, but you just don't know where they are, and you're going past them, so you're overtaking boat more often than not. You've got to keep clear, and you don't know where they are.
So
then you get the phantom call as well, Graham, of people yelling like you're a lot closer. So then you start sticking the boat up a bit higher, and you just you get stuck, and pretty much they sometimes end up with a bit of a capsize happening.
Yeah, well, I think it's also keel boats who just don't understand the speed differences,
exactly.
do they? I mean, they kind of just don't realise quite how fast these boats are going to disappear on one side or another. So like here we got the two top Kiwi boats, Honda Marine just to windward, ASCC just to leeward. That was quite a kind tack from Josh there, wasn't it? A bit of a Kiwi-friendly tack. He could have gone a little bit more aggressively on David's bow, but he decided to do the tack straight ahead in line. And David had slightly faked a low line, I think, and just wound the sheet in, and these two boats are now got a bit of separation on them. But off to the left, you're going to see on your screen very soon, crossing them on port, is going to be ASCO and the winning group. Smeg's going to not quite get to them, just about to appear out of your left now. Armouring Pittwater right in this mix still, so is Birkenhead Marina, also looking pretty competitive. Jared Simpson still in this, just a couple of boats back. The Kitchen Maker in it, Appliances online. There's not a lot between these boats, but up at the top mark for the first time. These leaders are only about 30 seconds or so from getting to the top mark, and it's looking like ASCO on the water. We're going to come back and give you confirmation if they are legal or not. ASCO on the water, followed by Winning Group, followed by Honda Marine, we think, and ASCC, Armouring Pittwater. Smeg are going to have a little look at this when they tack back up with starboard rights. But for the moment, as you can see on the drone shot, first to the first mark on the water is ASCO. Goes to the bearway, nice and straightforward. Winning Group, we think the legal leader on the water, if that makes sense. Here comes Smeg coming over with starboard rights. These boats have got to make space for them. I'm not sure how easy Smeg's going to make it. Not easy at all is the answer. Honda have to dip. Hopefully Honda are going to try and find just enough room to get to the ley line. Armouring Pittwater not happy. Honda Marine cruise down on top of them. Bit of a shout. Not sure if they'll go to protest or not. Tricky situation for all parties there. Honda ducks Smeg cleanly, but did she infringe Armouring Pittwater? We'll have to wait and see what happens there. ASCC Marine went round in the end in 5th position, and there's Smeg going round in 6th. Quite a hectic mark rounding, but we wouldn't expect anything less here, Jimmy, would we?
No, not at all. And then, as you know, you got the old vintage 18s actually coming around this same mark. So
that'll be a speed difference of some sort. Hey, Birkenhead Marina, the next boat to go around.
They've done really well, Birkenhead Marina.
Yeah, they picked their way up here nicely, showed a bit of boat speed yesterday. Max just showing us again it was no fluke. Next boat around is going to be Brett Van Munster on Appliances Online, our friendly boat builder. There's a guy whose company's built every single one of these skiffs, making sure that they're all even. Behind him, Jared Simpson, another nice performance from him, keeping it very together today. Kitchen Maker. Well, we always expect good things from them. They're good, solid performer, Kitchen Maker, aren't they, Jimmy?
Mate, they're our future, a bunch of young guys on board there, and, I think they're doing quite well. It's their first big test as a package for this JJ's. I know Steve Quigley, father of Tom the Forward, he'd be nervously watching, but...
And here's a classic, what we call a Classic 18. That's what a Classic 18 is getting around. We won't spend too much time looking at them. It's all happening behind. Seatech Marina coming in on starboard. You just see out of the corner of your picture with starboard rights, forcing Bingley to tack away, who forced the Germans to tack away. Bit of a muddle, bit of a mess, but in the end, Bingley did the right thing to keep clear. It cost them, but you've got to keep clear, and they did it. Seatech enforcing their rights, absolutely appropriate, pushing harder for a JJ Giltinan World Championship, race number 1. So pretty hectic at the top mark. I don't think there's a lot, if any, infringing, but no question people are happy to push the rules when it comes to the big event, race 1. And look at this, here's Finport right at the back. We're not quite sure what happened. Finport at one point was looking perfectly competitive, at one point looking pretty threatening in the right, but I think she got the end part of that beat completely wrong, unless she had to do a penalty turn or something, Jimmy. But there she is, virtually dead last.
Very uncharacteristic for the Finport to be that far back. So, you know, we're a lot of things are coming, and you can probably just see in the background there, Noakes trying to get over the top of a yacht. Yeah, it's all on here today on Sydney Harbour.
It is all on. Graham, did you see what happened with Finport there? We did a little lose track of them, didn't we? Did you see what happened to them after they went out to the right-hand side?
Well, first of all, the right-hand side was a loser. The left-hand side paid big time, and you mentioned before that ASCC was being very kind to Honda. In actual fact, they were wanting to get back to the left-hand side of the track.
Quite right.
And they got stuck in on, what's this, Nielsen Park over here?
Nielsen Park,
beach.
indeed, yep.
They went in there. When they came out really soft.
Well,
and that was what did the damage.
There you go. So probably no penalty turns, just got it wrong at the end of the beat, because things were looking pretty good for them halfway up. But wow, it can change fast here on Sydney Harbour. So Finport, a lot of work to do. They look like very much one of the form boats yesterday, and they've been very competitive all season, but they've got work to do. They don't want to discard race number one. Well, we're only halfway through the first lap. There's a lot of time left. A lot can happen, but they're giving themselves a little bit of a handicap very early on indeed. That's Keegan York's team on Finport. We had an interview with him earlier on today. You might have seen that at the beginning of the transmission. And we're going to go forward in the fleet and see how the leaders are doing right now.
Just got all these Adams 10s off to the left of the camera cat coming around the mark on starboard.
Yeah, we just to the behind us, Maersk, which was one of the boats a little bit back in the fleet. They've had a capsize. But I'm amazed there aren't more capsizes actually right here, Graham. On a day like today, with this amount of traffic, we're getting a sense on the screen. There's another cruiser just crossing the screen. There's boats all over the place here. And it's an absolute frenzy. I'm almost amazed there aren't more boats getting themselves in trouble.
I can tell you now that the Maersk crew have never sailed on Sydney Harbour before, so this amount of boats, they'll be in a frenzy the whole time.
And just on our bow, Graham, look at that. We've got Jared Simpson capsized just off Nielsen Park, just at the front of the boat. We can just bring the camera around right in front of us. Jared Simpson setting up the jibe off Nielsen Park. Always a tough place to jibe because it's a bit lumpy and it's a bit light, but he did not want to capsize there. That's going to be messy with the spinnaker up. There he is on camera. We're right in off the beach on Nielsen Park. There is a capsize, so we know that Maersk have capsized. We know that Jared's capsized. Well, it makes it easy for boats like Finport, just jibing alongside us right now. Makes it a little bit easier to get back into the fleet.
A lot of heated discussion going on the Finport at the moment.
Yeah, you think the stress will be up a bit, Jimmy?
No, not at all. Not with not with Keegan.
It's harder, Graham, isn't it? You know, it's like you go to a big regatta, race one, things don't play out in the first beat. You're telling yourself it's a 9-race series, but you feel terrible.
Well, the other thing about coming down into here is that you've got to find a hole to jibe into to get back out onto the Shark Island line, and so that's why Jared probably swum. He left it too late while he was looking for a gap, and all of a sudden then you have to crash jibe or run aground, one or the other.
That's right. Well, we just look at the Flanzers online, and you've seen the number of motorboats that we're having to weave our way through. So Jimmy's got the camera cat flat chat towards Shark Island. You can see ahead of us there are the leading boats, and the leading boat on the water is Winning Group if they've got that ley line correct, but if they have to drop the kite, which they might have to, then that's going to cost them. So on the water, ASCO, Honda Marine, ASCC, Winning Group and SPEG is the leading group, closely followed by our Marine Pittwater and Birkenhead Marina right in front of us here. That is the leading group. This is Shark Island. They go around Shark Island, leaving to the starboard side, and then we run down towards the bottom mark for the first time. That will be lap 1 completed. We're going to try and find out, Jimmy, I'm not sure if you feel you can get on the VHF and get clarity on which boats are disqualified. Sometimes the committee sends out a rib to tell the boats if they're actually off the course. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
We'll try and give you guys clarity because we suspect it is ASCO and ASCC, but we don't know that for sure. I don't want to be too committal in case that is not accurate data.
Yeah, once I've got line of sight of the Ripple side, which is our start boat, I'll most definitely confirm that.
And right up in front of us, the leader is the Winning Group. ASCO just got round the first mark first. Winning Group had to flog their kite to get round that mark, but they did, kept the kite up. In front of us here is Birkenhead Marina getting a lovely puff right in front of us here, but she's got to get herself up to that turning mark. This is what happened to Winning Group. They got the gust, but they managed to flog the kite and just keep the kite up, not have to drop it. That allowed Asco around the outside of them, but it's kept Winning Group in the leading pack. So our leader on the water, Asco, throws in the first jibe to run down Point Piper. Next to jibe is Honda Marine, followed by Winning Group, super close together, just a boat length or so between them. You can see right in front of us. There's Smeg, also right in this race, after not particularly flash-looking first part of the beat, but Coco's come through this really nicely, and ASCC is the last boat in this leading group. Close behind, it's Birkenhead Marina and Armoring Pittwater, I think, are capsizing just off Shark Island, or just saving a capsize, one of the two.
They're in really close to the reef there where they are.
Pittwater very close to the rocks there. That could go horribly wrong if they don't get the boat upright and fast quickly. Armoring Pittwater now having to tack. I think they might be on the rocks there, Jimmy. I see the bow up in the air, high up in the air. They've got the kite down. If we see the board being lifted, we'll know they're in deep strife. Such a shame. Armoring Pittwater competing really well today.
Really well, yeah.
Yesterday, but they just pushed it too hard on that ley line, and it's all gone very average indeed for them. Anyway, good luck to Simon and his team on Armoring Pittwater. I hope they recover themselves. Back to the race. In front of us, Smeg, and you can see Honda Marine, Winning Group, and our leader is Asco with the red kite, still looking for confirmation whether they are a legal boat on the course or not. And then ASCC are just behind Smeg to leeward, just off camera. That is the leading five. We're going to get down the Wimmer mark, take a close look at them, and see if we can get any indication from the race officer team whether or not they're legal. Graham, do you think the race officers will try and tell the non-recall boats that they're out, or they just let it play its course?
They generally don't do that in a standard recall. Normally they will pull a boat off the course in the black flag situation, but generally they don't in a standard recall, so they may not.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. Now back down here, you're starting to see the traffic. Jimmy Bury is having to wind his way through about 50 lasers and the classical 18s, and so are the skiffs. They've got exactly the same problem that we've got, and they probably have less manoeuvrability, and we don't have that much. Leading boats, lovely shot from the drone. There is Asco and the Winning Group, Honda Marine. Asco just off picture right now, but Honda Marine and the Winning Group, boats 2 and 3 on the water on starboard jibe. They've both got possibly another jibe. It's harder. They might lay. They might, just depends what the next little shift does. For the moment, it looks like they're pretty much going to go in on this. Well, we'll see what happens. Little light patches, lots of dirty air, masses of wash. You can see the wash we're in right now as we try and follow Smeg down here. She's about 150 metres behind the leaders. Now it looks like out front, like Asco the latest in one. Looks like there is no more jibing to be done. So Winning Groups.
Mark and I just checked in with the Ripples side. They're still discussing they're not letting us know who was over at the stage. So we'll just stick with what we see on the water until we know.
Yeah, and Asco jibing now. The boys right off Clark Island, like almost on the bricks, next door to a white catamaran. Quite hard to pick it with there's so many inflatable buoys down here because all this racing. Easy to get the wrong buoy for the racers and easy for us, but no excuse for us. We should better sort this out. But the racers have worked out which buoy to go around. Nice work by James Doran on Asco as the leader. They're all going to have to put this one extra port jibe in to get to it. There is Asco throwing in her last jibe now. No margin for error down here. There's only about 3 or 4 boat lengths. Graham Catley, do you fancy that?
This is a high risk of carnage at some stage. If 4 or 5 boats come around together, holy smoke, it's going to be chronic.
I don't know how much room there is there. I'm not sure the race officer really meant to put it that close, but that is close. Well, you can get round, but I don't think more than 2 or 3 skiffs could get round before someone's going to be picking off a branch off the tree over there.
I'm just wondering whether the mark's been drifted, well, it's drifted down or something's happened to it.
It doesn't look pretty, does it?
It's not its normal spot.
Let's hope this does not involve something like a redress or a thrown out race or anything like that. I mean, it is navigable water. No one's hit anything, so there isn't grounds technically for redress or a protest. That changes if anybody hits the bottom. I've been in myself at a few keelboat races where you've gone around a mark and you've hit the bottom to get round it. Clearly, the race gets thrown. That's not the case here. It's not in its usual position, but race officer can put it where he wants, Jimmy, can't he?
Absolutely, they can put their marks wherever they want, except for obviously Shark Island they can't put wherever they want. That mark's pretty permanent.
That ain't moving anywhere. So, Graham, it's tough down here, Graham, but is it fair?
Look, it's part of the course. That's the beginning and end of it. You've got to do what you've got to do. I just noticed the wind has gone really soft here, it's a different beat this time up to the top mark.
It's a very different. We've got the mark right down off the island. That's unusual. We have got on the water. ASCO went round first. Honda Marine went round second. Winning Group third. ASCC just tacking for some clear air right now. Fourth, fifth Smeg, and sixth Bergenhead Point Marina doing a lovely job. Lots of pace downwind. And then a bit of a gap until we get to the next boat. It looks like Armory and Pittwater coming down here, so if they did hit something, they've fixed it, or maybe they didn't hit. They looked awfully close,
They were awfully close. We did a commercial up there last week, and mate, it was very shallow where they were. I can assure you, we were. It's as close as you want to get to that reef, I can assure you.
That is for sure. So look, we're at the bottom mark at the end of lap 1, race 1 of the 2019 JJ Giltinan. And it is light down here. They started in much more like 12, 13 knots of breeze. But as Graham's just called it, the breeze has just dropped out. It is down 3 wiring, but only just 3 wiring. Now it's a gear changing day. You need all the power you can get. And it could go anything. There's a lot of cloud cover. There's nothing to say this breeze will come back up again. But the gap that has created, that suddenly appeared in the fleet is huge. Graham, Armory and Pittwater had a problem at Shark Island, but if you take them out of the equation, the gap between Boat 5 and Vintech is just vast.
I was watching them, this back part of the fleet come around Shark Island, and they got really high, and so they got into a lull while the other guys were sailing away in puffs, and that's what created the gap.
So it's really the leading group really came down on a private puff effectively, and everyone else is now sailing in what has now become the gradient winds, now become the real wind. It's light, isn't it? I just see ASCC upwind a second ago, like not even 2 wiring.
The other problem for this part of the fleet was that they could see the boats in front who were really struggling, flogging their kites to get around Shark Island. So they were overly cautious, but the wind died and they got caught up with no breeze.
Yep, it was exactly. They got sold a little bit of a pup there, didn't they? But it's different, that's for sure. On a day like today, things are changing. There's this low, thin cloud layer all over the place, and some thicker, wetter clouds stacked around Sydney Harbour, and it's just softening the breeze all over when the cloud comes back in, and there's little shifts all over the place. The left looks good at times, the right looks good at times, but you've just got to play with what you've got. It's a present tense tactical strategy, Graham. I reckon you just got to deal with what you got.
That's exactly right, and the Finport is suffering terribly from that hole in the breeze around Shark Island.
Bingley too. Bingley were right up with the leading group, weren't they, up that first beat, and the end of the beat didn't go well for them either. I think it's another of those boats that we saw them tacking over to the right, 3/4 of the way up, and as you said, Graham, the right did not pay at all. Really cost Finport in a massive way, but it cost Bingley as well.
It did, and that's a bit like Sydney Harbour. One side's great and one side's a dog, and if you get it wrong, it's hard work to come back from.
A bit like the real estate, Graham.
And Royal Oak Hotel also struggling, and Kitchen Maker Caesarstone, often one of our front runners, particularly on days like today. They pick their way up through the light to medium stuff beautifully, really struggling today. So Kitchen Maker. And then we've got Rag and Famish, who's our sponsor of today. We were hoping for better things for them. But, well, it is only lap 1, 2 more laps to go. Stuff happens on Sydney Harbour. Nobody should be giving up quite yet, but Rag and Famish Hotel, today's sponsor, somewhere near the back of the pack. And Bryce and his boys are going to want to do a bit better than that, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's... I think what we're talking about, where the breeze died out for a lot of people, it's really hurt, especially these guys. That lead pack came down with plenty. The Rag, unfortunately, the Rag and Famish was caught back in that peloton that sort of had the no breeze. So, you're sort of feeling for these guys a little bit at the moment on the water. So
it's not how you want to start your regatta. And Graham, SeaTech Marine, we saw SeaTech looking really slippery yesterday. Today, not quite so good.
Well, they unfortunately followed Finport out to the right-hand side of the course, and suffered the same fate and followed them through, unfortunately.
But they looked quick yesterday. I mean, if they've anyone out of this pack at the back here's got the speed to get through it, possibly Alex could do it.
Well, I think he can. He's got. There's still plenty of course left, and there's a lot of boats just in front of him. So it's not that big a deal to get back if you can. But you've got to have a few things go your way. That's what's got to happen now.
And you've also got to have a lot of just mental fortitude, because it's too easy, isn't it, just to go, damn, ain't going to work today. Start thinking of the word discard starts to spring into your mind. But you kind of got to stay on point on this.
You do. You do. You can easily get flustered and go from bad to worse. But anyway, he's an old campaigner. He's been doing it for a while, so he should be okay.
I like your confidence in your fellow Kiwi, but I know what you mean. He is. He's been doing this for some time, but I think he looks more competitive this year than I've seen him for a while. And I'm hoping we're going to see the best of Alex on this regatta. Spinport just tacking away, dirty air. Spinport will be itching to try and press their boat speed button, Jimmy, but if they don't have clear air and don't have some breeze, there's not a lot they can do, but I've got a feeling they're going to be avoiding the right-hand side of the top of the beat this time.
Funny you should say that. I was just saying that now they're going out to the right-hand side, so they're...
to clear their air, or do you think
hopefully just to clear their air, you know. Hopefully they learned from the last time. I was just looking at it going, oh no, not twice.
Now the breeze has increased since we're at the bottom mark. Graham was saying it had gone light. Well, he was certainly not wrong about that, but it's just come right back up again. It is the kind of day. It is going to be gear changing. There are puffs, there are lulls, there are shifts. It's just all about changing and sailing to what you've got. Right now everybody's full on three stringing, even easing a bit of sheet and just depowering a click. So we're up at about sort of the 12, 13 knot end of breeze. Lovely conditions if there weren't so many spectator boats and if there wasn't quite so much wash. But not a bad day to be on Sydney Harbour. About 25 degrees air temperature. The water's sitting at about 23, 24 as well. Just this traffic. Everywhere you look upwind, you see a boat of some denomination that's not an 18-foot skiff. What looks like trying to ruin your day. Anyway, Vintec in front of us. Noakes, Sean Langman just to windward of them. About across on port ahead of them is Bingley. They look a little frustrated too. They didn't have a great day yesterday at all. They just couldn't find the speed. And Bingley, maybe today's the day they can get it together. A little bit more breeze, I think, will suit Mika and his team. That's Scott Babbage in the middle, Pete Harris on the front. I think they felt a bit under horsepower yesterday. Today, now the breeze has come up. Now suddenly they look pretty good. There's Bingley in front of us. Cruising boats all over. If you're used to watching sailboat racing, you know, like Olympic sailing, where it's a bunch of 49ers on a clear piece of water all by yourself, well, that's not what it's like on Sydney Harbour. You have to manage what you've got in front of you. It's really a core part of the skill. But Bingley looking happier. It's a little fresher. They got a decent amount of crew weight on board and things looking just a little bit better for them. Let's hope Mika can pick his way through this. Just crossing him on starboard is armouring Pitwater. They've got over their travails at the Shark Island and looking competitive again. So hopefully they can put that behind them.
I'll tell you what, Mark, it's definitely... I'd hate to be sailing the boats today. It's hard enough on the camera cam where we can just point the boat generally wherever we want and get going, but God, there's some traffic out here, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is a lovely day to be out here. It's fresh right now. When it gets fresh like this, the boats look fabulous. They're perfectly set up, middle to top end of a big rig. It's great fun to watch, but you know, when it's lighter and they don't have enough horsepower and the crew are coming in off the wire, you really feel for them. It's physically tough. And it's just mentally so frustrating, isn't it? When you don't have the breeze that you want. But these top crews have got to handle it. They're used to it. We're heading upwind right now. We're about 1/3 of the way up the beat for the second time. In front of us is ASCC to our left. Smeg right in front of us. Honda Marine crossing them. And ASCO in the same piece of water. This is our leading group. Just to try and find where Winning Group have got to. They look like they've actually crossed the harbour out to the hard right-hand side. That's punchy after what we saw, but conditions change. And Graham, we did just say you've got to sail to what you see in front of you. Maybe Winning Group are ignoring what happened last time, and they've seen something on the right.
Yeah, it's a brave call, I'd have to say, but you know, they've got a fantastic crew on their boat, and they've been sailing on Sydney Harbour, so if they don't know it, no one does.
Well, it's not looking great for them at the moment, but we said that about Finport at about the same point. last beat, and then Finport came good, and then of course it went bad at the end. So we'll see what happens with winning group. But in front of us now, we're with Smeg and the front of the boat, and Honda Marine, ASCC as well, just behind us. ASCC just tacking, making a little bit of a muddle of that. So we have ASCC behind us, and we've got Smeg right in front of us. The Honda Marine ahead of them on the same line. ASCO ahead of them. This is the leading group. And ASCC recover from that slightly wobbly tack. So ASCC, we're going to still try to find out whether they are a legal racer or not, but they're in the flat water in the corner there. They're following us pretty fast, so we might have to move out of the way in a second. But right in front of us is Smeg. Michael Coxon and his guys made a nice recovery after the first beat. Maybe we can have a quick look at Smeg in a second. There's a super yacht behind us, just framing the shot with ASCC.
Wouldn't mind that for your office. that super yacht looks pretty comfortable.
Okay, there is Smeg in front of us. Nicely balanced, looking pretty powerful. Graham Catley, if that was your rig, what would you be thinking?
That looks pretty damn good, I'd say. It's, you know, they're obviously, their speed's pretty good. They've just got to put it together, and here they go, they're tacking. And so they're going up the left-hand side again, which paid last time. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Michael Coxon deciding that left is where he wants to be, committed. No one else is going that way, but he's seen some breeze. He remembers the left worked out well. He's gone that way. He wouldn't have crossed winning group. I think we just saw them just a second ago. They were just about to cross it by a fair bit. But even though everyone else is going to the right, so Honda are heading hard right, ASCO's heading hard right, the winning group is already here. Smeg's decided, yep, we like the left, we're going back that way. So here's winning group, currently came out of the hard right. Looks like it didn't really make a big difference. They crossed behind Honda, but they were behind Honda anyway. Maybe they lost out a tiny bit over here, but not a big difference between the two performances, whether you come up this beat left or right. But for now, winning group in the middle of the harbour, heading towards the left as they tack back. We are we have about a quarter, or maybe less, 20% of this beat yet to go. I'd expect to do the top mark in about 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, just to give you an idea about where we are on the racetrack. And the winning group happy in the middle to their hard right. When they look over there, John Winning Jr. looks over his shoulder. He will see Honda Marine on starboard and ASCO on starboard, well to the right, in a bit of a righty, but nothing to be too scared about. Winning group pretty happy with the way they're going for race one of the JJ, all looking pretty nice on board that boat. As you say, Graham, in a big regatta like this, you want to counter, don't you? Anything in the first handful of boats you're going to be extremely happy with.
Well, I think that you know, the first 5 or 6 you're going to have a counter, and because the boats are all so even that it's so easy to go from first to fifth in no time at all. But it's interesting. These two guys are sticking together pretty closely, and ASCO's doing a nice job.
Yeah, ASCO, after the problems they had, Jimmy, getting themselves sorted for today, we're just going to have to park up the fact they might have been over the line, but in terms of the way they've sailed the race, sailed pretty nicely. They're not sailing away as we sometimes see the leaders do, but they are staying with and marshalling Honda Marine, who always look quick, pretty effectively.
Yeah, they're doing a great job, and as you said, like, I think if you let this Honda Marine get in front of you, I think you'd be seeing a lot of the tail lights and with binoculars, I think. So, you know, I think the management of keeping Honda under a bit of a gas situation or bad air onto them was as good as they can do, and forcing Honda back out here to the right, which we didn't work up the first work. We'll wait and see what happens.
So Honda had a bit of dirty air there, and they had to tack away, but they just went a little bit. I thought they might have gone not even as far as that, just a clearing tack. They went a bit further than the clearing tack.
They did, but they're just making sure of it. But you know, at the end of the day, they want to just get on a podium. So the clear air, clearing tack, don't go too far. I think they're okay.
Yeah.
I think they're okay. It doesn't look like, you know, on the far, we just had a picture on the left-hand side, the winning group and Smeg don't look like they've got any advantage on that left-hand side.
No, I mean, even Asco don't look like they'd cross and tack. I mean, they did have about a 5-6 boat length lead, but right now they pretty much look bow to bow. It's each side. This breeze, having said, it's just starting to click left a little bit. Asco looking a lot better now, but the hard left boats, that's winning group and Smeg, doing okay down there, but Honda Marine look clear across Smeg for sure. Probably going to be clear across winning group, as you said, positioning at only halfway through this race after all, just to make sure they stay right in that leading group. Breeze down a bit, Graham, as well. We've had the up and down, haven't we? Down just a little bit now, maybe 11, 12 knots, but there are little puffs, little dark patches all over.
But the best news is that the harbour has opened up again, so these guys can hopefully get to that top mark clear without any of these big yachts giving them disturbed air.
It's like a wave. A wave of traffic comes and then the wave departs. It's very spooky. It's like somebody is orchestrating. It's like a choreograph, but it is pure accident. I can assure you, no one in Sydney Harbour is nearly that organised enough or don't care too much about whatever else does. Everybody just uses the harbour and enjoys it in their own way. So the righty is staying in just a little bit. Honda Marine just going bow up, crossing well across Smeg by probably 15-20 boat lengths. They're going to cross by winning group by at least as much, if not more. But I'd say Honda Marine and Asco, not much between them now, Graham. Asco will put the tack in first, obviously. Honda will have starboard rights. At the moment, you probably prefer to be Honda of these two boats, I think.
Honda was just lifting off the hip of Asco just a little bit, and they still are. Whether that holds or not, I don't know. But one thing's for certain, they're going to be 1 or 2 boat lengths between them around the top mark.
So Asco put the tack in that they have to. Asco's just on, hopefully on Port Layla. Asco's tack, there you go, just see on the left of the picture. Honda on the right of the picture. So Honda looking like they are going to get to or cross, but they're starboard rights anyway. They can take what Asco does, so David's got to work out, is this Leyland or is it not? Does he go under? Does he go over? Does he go on the line? Tactical decision coming up on Honda Marine right now. They have to make a call, then they have to execute. So he looks like he's happy to make Asco duck in. There you go, bow to bow. Nothing between these two boats. They are dead level. As a fleet of moths just spins around the bow of these two boats.
I just heard on the radio too, Mark, just for the viewers at home, that Merce Line's back on the beach, so whatever, maybe that capsize that they had might be terminal.
Any confirmation on the OS on-course sides? No, not.
Keeping that one right up their sleeve. No. They must have the long sleeve version of the shirts on today.
They do. The race officer's not telling us, but there we go. We'll have to wait. So it's unofficial.
Look, I watched that start, and I thought it was a clear start, to be honest. And Asco was the most advanced boat, but I thought they were clear. So
okay, well, you may be right, Graham. That's why I don't want to jump to any conclusions, because it is not confirmed if anyone was over. Well, someone was over. The flag went up, but we don't know who it was. Anyway, we are racing towards this ley line. What's for sure, Honda looked to me like they've picked this beautifully, because Asco are not laying. Asco are going to have to double tack. They will come back with starboard rights, and here comes the next critical tactical manoeuvre. I think Honda are going to cross them, but they don't want to push this too hard. You don't want to protest at this point of your JJ. Honda looking, David squeezing down to look. There's a call from Asco port starboard. David's confident, I think he's right. That is clear across, no incident. And Asco only a half a boat length behind. Good, tight, fair racing from the front of our fleet. Honda Marine get themselves back up into the lead, where we saw them most of yesterday. Our current champion is leading at the top of the beat. It's the end of the second lap.
Looking very smooth there on their bearaway, aren't they, the Honda guys? It was just amazing.
Nothing wrong with the handling at all. Up goes the kite and it fills straight away. Second round is going to be Asco James Doran, recovering from their various dramas of getting to the start today and looking like they've got it all sorted as well. Easy rounding for them. Asco go around in second. Third is winning group, maybe slightly paid a price for going up the right side of that beat early on, but enough speed to stay in contact. As rock solid third at the moment. We are exactly halfway through this race at this point, so plenty of race course left for the winning group to get back up to the front. And next round is Smeg. Pretty impressive by Smeg. Smeg have been not right in the leading group for a little bit, Graham, but they're right in it now. They must have speed as well as very clear strategy in how they wanted to position just then.
Yeah, look, they obviously very experienced, and it was a top boat, so they just got to, join the dots, as they say, and away you go. They're doing very well.
And there's a bit of a gap. After them, it's going to be ASCC, followed by Birkenhead Point Marina, and then a really big gap before the next boats appear. The next boats are like so far back we almost need binoculars, but it's looking like Bingley, it's Noakes, Armory and Pittwater, and possibly is Royal Oak possibly in the distance. I think it might be. And there are appliances online, but the distances, Jimmy, are huge, aren't they? This up-down breeze, clearly the leading group have just had the benefit of slightly more pressure, and they've sailed away. So this leading group right in front of us now, you've got ASCO, winning group, Smeg, and of course Honda, our leader, who jibed off first. That's the leading four, and they have got, well, the next boat hasn't even gone around the top mark yet.
But
a lead of a solid minute and a half.
Yeah, it almost seems like these guys just, the luck just keeps on coming with these guys, and the poor, peloton behind us, they're not only fighting with each other, they're fighting with the breeze. The breeze just isn't materialising for them when they need it most.
Luck, do you think, Jeremy, or boat speed, or what's caused this little the gap that the top four created?
Oh, I think it's... Oh, sorry, Graham, go.
I'm just going to say, the rich always seem to get richer. That just seems to be the way it goes,
Yeah, that is the way it is. You've got to feel that it's a bit of boat speed as well, isn't it? I think these probably are the fastest boats, and it just makes a difference. Maybe an even bigger difference on a gear-changing day. So with our leading group, Honda Marine jibed away, and they have committed to the other side of the harbour. ASCO are chasing them that way, but these two boats we're in front of us right now, Smeg and Winning, are taking the fully opposite way of doing this. They're sailing towards Nielsen Park, a popular beach on a Saturday afternoon in Sydney Harbour, even on a slightly overcast day like today. This is where Jad Simpson capsized this time last, that Jimmy, wasn't it?
Yes.
Got caught up in probably a bit of powerboat weight, something like that.
When I first seen it, someone was sort of hanging down below the wing, so I don't know whether it was just a bit of crew error or...
Could have slipped. Maybe in the wash. It can happen, can't it? You get a lot of wash, a bit of pressure comes out of the sheet, nothing to hold against, and you fall over. Smeg decide that's close enough to Nielsen for them. Winning group, the far side of them, just rolling into a jibe at the same time and a little bit hidden behind, but there they are. So Winning Group and Smeg have hit the hard left side, that is for sure. On the opposite side of the harbour, we have got Honda Marine, our leader, and ASCO. They couldn't be on more opposite sides here, Graham, could you? I mean, you can't go any further. In the end, the land was the only reason they seemed to jibe.
It just looked a little soft on this side, to be honest, Mark, and I'm just looking at a Honda out to the right. You just can't see it on screen, but they look like they've got a fair bit of pressure there, although now Smeg's picking it up.
Yeah, it's very hard to say this far out, but you're right. From where we are now, Honda Marine seem to be, they're on port jibe, so they're different jibe to Smeg, and they are in quite a lot of pressure. They bow down, so it looks advantage to Honda right now, which means it'll pay for ASCO as well, who are on the same line as Honda, just a little bit behind them. Of our top four, well, you pay your money and make a choice, don't you? Winning group, as you see on screen now, with Smeg to windward, they decided they like the left-hand side of the run looking downwind, and on this run we go right to the bottom. We don't go by Shark Island, right to the bottom mark, so it's a long run. The Winning group and Smeg take the left, ASCO, Honda take the right. We're going to find out quite soon exactly what difference that makes, but it's certainly, as Graham said, looks clear advantage to Honda Marine and ASCO.
Honda Marine is absolutely legging it on ASCO at the moment, Mark.
You're right. Of the boats on the right, these two boats we think have done better than the boats on the left. And of these two, Honda's just boom, jumped. She was the first to jibe, so she was the most committed to this side, and maybe just that extra bit of leverage she got here first, maybe that makes the difference. It could be something else, but
couple of little things. Firstly, ASCO's hoist was quite slow. Their kite was over the side, so Honda got a couple of boat lengths there. I think Honda's crew weight will be slightly down on ASCO as well, so when you get these three-quarter runs, that lighter weight in the boat and the soft conditions helps enormously. You can see it. I can actually see a rip in ASCO's spinnaker too. I don't think it's terminal, but that was a function of their hoist and the up at the top mark.
Well, it's going to be interesting seeing ASCO and the Winning group. We've looked at the Winning group before, and now we've got ASCO on camera. Well, ASCO and Winning group at port starboard, Winning group's on starboard. There's nothing between them. Asco maybe, no, it's winning group. We'll get the shot. You can see there's a winning group to the left and to the right. Well, from the drone angle there are the two boats. What a great shot we're seeing here. Winning group can't quite get to Asco, so they have to jibe, but nothing between these two boats. We thought that there was a bigger difference between them, but actually as they come together, it didn't make much difference. Winning group and Asco, not much has happened. Well, Honda Marine has extended considerably out in front. So Honda Marine, the leader of the group, has extended, but Asco and winning group close together. Smeg has jived back the other way to take more of that left-hand side, looking downwind. I don't think that's going to pay, Graham. At the moment, I think it's all better on this side.
I think it is, and there was a lot less traffic on this side of the harbour as well, Mark. So
you are right.
That helps a little bit, you know, just the disturbed air that all the boats are having to sail through all the time.
So Asco charging down the harbour, trying not to get affected by, that's us in front of the shot actually. There's Asco, the camera cat's just in front, churning up a bit of a weight, but being a power catamaran, Graham, you'll know a bit about catamarans, being a proud catamaran owner. Catamarans don't kick up so much weight, do they? If you're going to follow anyone, follow a catamaran.
That's right, and they don't tip over too much either. That's also a good thing.
So Asco filing down behind
Graham.
us, and there you can see winning group just behind, and right in front of us is Honda Marine. We're just going to bring it up to date with the leader. So we're sandwiched in between the leader, Honda Marine, in front of us, and behind us that's Asco and winning group on opposite jives to Honda Marine, but Honda just coming over here just to make sure she stays roughly in the same piece of water as her opposition. We can see the crew looking down under the boom, trying to sight that ley line. Here they go, they like the look of it, and that's probably far enough for now. I think they hopefully saw that ferry. The ferry should cross them by a fair bit, but I think they have. They don't want to bow up too much, otherwise they'll create a ferry drama, but I think they've seen the ferry now, which will be useful. They're going to have to go through a bit of dirty air here, Jimmy, aren't they? And a bit of wash as well.
Yeah, the wash is what's going to be the killer, and if that hits them at the same time that they get that dirty air, that no breeze, yeah, could have a big problem.
You can see the crewmen going in just to make sure they can sail deep enough. So ideally they probably should have sailed on for another 30 seconds there and picked a more aggressive ley line and avoided this, but in the end that's the choice they made. They've got to sail with what they've got, but they get through the wash without too much problem, and they're pretty much on the ley line to the mark. The bow is just a little bit high at their bow. It still looks like it's as close to the island as ever it was, and this of course is a relatively high tariff manoeuvre. They're going to head towards this mark. They're going to have to do a 180-degree turn, jibe, drop, leaving the mark to starboard. So we're about to see where the boat handling skills are of our leading four. This is straightforward, Jimmy, isn't it? You've done a bit of time on the front of a skiff. This is going to be hard work.
This is going to be a hard one, but you know, I'm sure that Brad and Matt are well and truly up to it with Dave. Like just watching him go through the wash and the bad air off that ferry, Mark. These guys have got what it takes as far as the crew combination goes, that's for sure.
They look calm, didn't they? So here's the above shot from Honda Marine. Nice one for the Spinnaker designers. You don't often get that angle. It's the angle you want to see.
Here's a great shot.
And remember, they're not going to go around this first yellow mark. You're about to see at the top of your picture. It's the one after that, another 100 metres to go. A white mark with an orange top with the SLAM logo on it. And here they approach the mark. Today's race, as we've said, sponsored by Rag and Fanish. A lot of the crews will head up there on Thursday. Friday's a lay day, assuming the weather has played ball the rest of the week, and therefore Thursday night becomes a night to maybe practice your social skills. Rag and Famish Hotel's a fine place to do that. Thank you to them for sponsoring today. So here is Honda Marine rolling into what would be the last jibe at the end. They didn't actually point straight at the mark. They've just got time to do a completed jibe, which will simplify the boat handling for them.
The breeze just doesn't seem to be filling in down the spot of mark at all,
Graham.
right. Yeah, it's definitely over the other side of the harbour.
Very soft down here, but that's a good thing. Things there's a big bloody rock in front of them.
There is a rock, isn't there? And that buoy's not gone any farther away from that big rock, is it, Graham?
No, it hasn't. So that was a pretty good rounding. I think they did pretty well there.
So Honda Marine lead at the bottom mark for the second time. 1 lap to go. One more lap up to the top. Via Shark Island, back down here. Laps taking sort of 20-ish minutes at the moment, maybe 25 if there's lighter stuff. So race 1, Honda Marine, a clear lead. Second, approaching this mark is Asco. She rolls into her last jibe as well. She's going to be a little bit deeper in. She jibed a little bit earlier relative to Honda. So they're going to be a little deep at the end. That might work out quite nicely for the drop. And barreling in behind them is Winning Group. You can see the white and blue spinnaker of the Winning Group. John Winning Jr. bringing it in nice and fast. There's going to be a nice boat handling tariff for Sam Newton. Less lay line to play with, less time. Puts his crew under pressure, but I've got no doubt they're right up to it. Sebi Jarman in the middle. Sam Newton owning the front of the boat, and in the way that only he does. Beautifully done. Nice helming from John. Round they go. These guys are right in at the Winning Group in third, close behind Asco. Minute and a half delta or so to Honda Marine. That's our top three, and next comes Smeg. Michael Coxon took a very contrary view of how to get downwind, but he took the left-hand side looking downwind. It didn't pay, but it didn't cost him as much, Graham, as I thought it was going to.
No, it's pretty good. And it's an interesting coming out of this bottom mark. There's the boats behind are lifting high, and Honda's in a knock. I'm not sure what they'll do here, whether they'll tack to cover, and they take it to cover.
Yeah, just as you said that they did. That's the leaders. You're just looking at a quick shot of our leaders, the first three. Well, the three you're looking at, that's boats 2, 3 and 4. Honda first round, just in a different breeze. She was significantly headed to the left, so she's decided to take that header and come back up to rejoin this group. Don't want to separate too much if you're the leader. That's what's happening out front. Next boat around, the boat in 5th place. An impressive performance from Birkenhead Point Marina. Plenty of speed from them today. And ASCC, Josh Peripsky, keeping things reasonably tidy on board as well. Maybe just not quite the boat speed of the leading 5 or 4. Graham, is that unfair comment, or do you see the same as I'm seeing?
I think that's probably true. They'll be getting forced into the wrong places on the course too. That doesn't help them at all. But still, good result if they can stay there and they're not blown out.
No question, that's a counter. And talking of people doing different things, well, Michael Coxon and Smeg has tacked away from the group. The usual received wisdom here is you just one starboard tack into Bradley's and then tack away. And we know Coco likes that left-hand side usually, but he had a little bit of dirty air, and he's obviously sees something on the right. He's tacked away early to the right-hand side, so he's splitting from the opposition. After ASCC on the race course, just to give you the overall picture, it's then a Plances on Lime, a big gap till a Plances on Lime will get down to this bottom mark. That's still a minute and a half, 2 minutes away, and then an even bigger gap before the next boats, and that's Bingley and Finport trying to mount a comeback, and Noakes as well in that group. But Finport really struggling to make up the distance, because the distances, Jimmy, we don't see this often between the peloton, the leading group, and then the next pack. Distances are just vast.
It's amazing. Like, we haven't seen it all season, this much separation as what we've seen yesterday and as well today. But today's gap in the fleet is huge. Like I've never seen the 18s ever be spread this far.
A big left shift on ASCC. They spot that quickly. No hanging around for Josh and his guys. They got in that lefty that we saw. Honda Marine. We thought it was just a local to Honda Marine, but obviously as you sail across here, they all fall into it. So Josh decides to pop out of that early. The Asca's the one boat that decided not to. She carried on into Bradley's. We'll see how that plays out between these leading groups. It's Finport and Bingley right now. That is what I'd like to call them the peloton, but there's no real large group of boats here, Jimmy, is there? And you can hardly call three bikes a peloton, so 3 boats can't be a peloton either.
I don't call bikes a lot of things, but the chasing pack is like, I think those 3 have probably stepped out from that chasing peloton pack, which is just behind them. You've got the likes of the Kitchenmaker, the Rag and Famish, Shandu, Vintech, Seatech, the Royal Oak Hotel, Marine. You got the Queenslanders.
It's a spread out peloton. If they were trying being scored for drafting, they'd be all failing. No one is giving any drafting help with this peloton, that's for sure.
That's what they can work out on Thursday night at the Rag and Famish.
Maybe, and John Winning Jandu also was in that group as well. That's Vintech, as you mentioned, on screen there as well. In the opposite direction, there's Smeg crossing here, going upwind. Smeg, I'm pretty impressed with how Coco's been going here. They didn't have a good day yesterday at all. But after a little average start, they picked their way through, joined the leading group, and the leading group can't shrug them off.
Yeah, well, I was pretty fortunate, Mark. I was walking around the park, and I sort of got happened to be in the right place at the right time, just chatting. Well, the boys on SMEG were having a bit of a debrief from yesterday.
Yep.
They were pretty happy with their overall performance. They just had a few little tweaks that they wanted to do on the boat, and they seemed pretty happy with, or confident that those few tiny little tweaks, and we're talking a number difference on rigging and so forth like that, was going to make a big difference to them today.
Well, it is a 9-race series with just the one discard, and last year, Graham, it doesn't happen very often, but we had a very low score, didn't we? 21 points won the series last year with Honda Marine, and if you divide that by the 8 that count, you'll realise that's not very many points at all. That's a pretty extraordinary average. This year, Graham, do you think anyone could do a performance like that on the scorecard, or do you think we're going to see it blowing out a bit?
I think it's going to blow out a bit. The different conditions are going to see different boats. Finport, Keegan is going to be there. So and at the front. So in some of the races, or quite a few of the races. So it's just going to happen like that.
Yeah. As you said, today's about counters, isn't it? Question becomes, of course, what's a counter? Well, only know that by the end of the regatta, but last regatta, a counter basically had to be top 5, and really it needed to be top 3. That's what it ended up for the top 2 boats. But that is very rare in a 25-boat fleet that is the reality. You'd have to think that top 5 is absolutely fine today, and you just might get away with counting, a 7 or an 8 and an overall scorecard for a winner?
You could. You could do that. It just depends on the consistency of the other boats. So it's interesting at the moment. The little tack out that Smeg and Winning Group did out of the bottom mark, I don't think paid at all. But it looks like again Honda Marine's gone out into the middle, so they've let the fleet go as well. So it's a bit dangerous.
Yeah. So that was Smeg, who's currently lying in 4th position overall. Our leader is still Honda Marine. She's out in the middle of the racetrack going upwind, and to the left is Asco and Winning Group. Winning Group have actually just tacked out of a hard left because they're going to come back in towards the middle. Smeg is continuing over towards the middle of the race course, and we are approaching halfway up the beat for the last upwind. There's Winning Group, you're seeing now, just popped out of the left-hand side. Winning Group staying very much in contact. They feel like a boat in a bit of control here, Jimmy. Winning Group just sort of keep it together, do what they have to do, not pushing aside, not feeling the need to score a famous victory, but feeling the need to get a counter. As Graham was saying, it looked like they're on top of the subject matter.
Absolutely. As Graham said, you don't need to win every race. It'd be nice to win every race, but you've got to, 100%, you've got to be wanting just keepers in that top 5, I think, all week. If you can be top 5, great. If you can be top 3, even better. And, they're definite keepers.
And here's Doro, as we call him, James Doran, the helmsman of Asco. And he's heading a little bit more to the left. And Asco too, very tidy performance. Asco is our top overall performing boat in the Australian fleet in terms of overall victories, and as we'd expect, she's performing up to a high standard. I always feel Asco is more competitive when the breeze goes up, Jimmy. I don't know whether that's a bit of a memory from past seasons, and Doro was often the best, one of the best heavy air skiff sailors, but he's rounded off his skill set, hasn't he? He's showing today that in this light, tricky, gear changing kind of heavy traffic day, he's right up to the task.
Yeah, he is, and I've still been trying to get confirmation on that OCS, whether these boys were, that's going to play into it. But regardless, it's still going to be a keeper. But I think they've probably got a minute difference there back to Honda Marine, which is just on the right of screen there. But halfway across the harbour. So there's as I was saying earlier on in the broadcast, Mark, if you let that Honda Marine boat, I think, get in front of you, I don't know whether they've got a bag full of propellers on board that boat that they just chuck on the back and off they go.
Yeah, right, they are hard if they get to that. Well, if you're following us, whichever channel you're following us on, if you want to give us any feedback about what you've seen, maybe you've got a view about what happened at the start, maybe you've even replayed the video, we can't do that on board, then feel free to tell us what's going on. Go to Facebook or use our Twitter handle, or go into Instagram, or tell us whatever you think. Happy to listen to your view for sure. It's a tricky one. We're only going to really know what happened at the start line, of course, when they cross the finish line. Will they get a hooter or not? Our committee is one of those slightly old-fashioned committees that does blow a horn if you finish, and if you don't get a horn, probably means you didn't go over. I know some committees have stopped doing that now. They like to keep it all provisional and leave it to what happens on shore, but I'm pretty sure Doug is going to give you a hooter if you finish, and there will be a rather large silence if you were OCS. So we'll find that out at the finish. Finish is probably about 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes from where we are right now. Anyway, we can't speculate on that. What we do know at the front of the fleet is Honda Marine, just crossing on camera right now, is our leader on the water. And on the water, ASCO, keeping them reasonably honest, are in second. And then it's Winning Group, a little in the middle of the harbour, and it's SMEG, more to the left of the harbour. And that is where the top 4 sits. Same top 4 we had at the top mark last time. You remember downwind, it was Honda and ASCO taking the right-hand side of the harbour as you look downwind, and it was Winning Group and SMEG taking the left, and, well, the Honda route worked. But on this last downwind, it's not a downwind run. They have to go around Shark Island. So the only real tactical options are at the very beginning of that first run, whether they choose to go right into Nielsen or whether they want to drive away early. I've got a feeling, Graham, that might be a traffic-based decision as much as any, because there's not a lot of variation on leyline, is there, going into Shark Island?
Look, it's still a challenge, and it depends more on what pups you get at the critical time. So it's not over yet, and that's for sure. You've got to get round Shark Island, and it's always a challenge.
Yeah, you've got to find that ley line close to Shark Island is traditionally the fast way, but if you go too close, you do, and that's what happened to Army in Pittwater. You end up possibly hitting the bricks, but certainly having to drop your kite. And in their case, they had to go head to wind. That's not fast, that's for sure. But if you don't get close enough to Shark Island, you get caught in a lighter, much, much lighter airstream close to Rose Bay, and that is not fast. So that's all to come. That's the last leg, not far away. We've got Honda Marine not going any further away from her competitors than the middle of the harbour. She's just tapped back on the starboard. Going back towards us now. And we've got ASCO and SMEG. Near to us now is ASCO on starboard, and pretty much in the hard left of the harbour. You can see in the distance there is SMEG crossing behind on starboard, and the Winning Group behind as well. That's boats 3 and 4. There are some distances here. I mean, Winning Group's got a lot of work to do if she wants to get up to ASCO or Honda Marine. Realistically, she might possibly be thinking now, what do you reckon, Graham? Is she just thinking about keep ahead of SMEG?
Yeah, that would be... as I said before, you know, anything can happen at Shark Island, and if the boats in front get it slightly wrong, well, all of a sudden you're all jibing together and going to the finish. So you don't discount any of that.
So you keep your powder dry and you wait to pounce. It's one of those ones, isn't it?
That's the go. But
yeah, keep it close if you can.
But the 2 leaders have opened up a little bit more upwind so far. So
and the breeze, you can see the Winning Group in front of us, 3 stringing. Everybody's right on their toes. Decent weight, crew weight there. I think Sam Newton's up in the well into the 90s. I think Sevi Jarvan is probably 90 and a bit, though he might claim less. And John Winning a little lighter than that, but a decent amount of crew weight. And a day like today, that's all good news, isn't it? Riding moment in these conditions. They can handle the power, that big rig, and it's really working well. So you can see on the water we're feeling about 12 knots of breeze, something like that, maybe 13 occasionally. And this boat looks really nicely set up. Boom, not too far off the centre line. Bang looks reasonably hard on. Jib looks absolutely spot on. Tiny bit of twist, not too much, plenty of power. Boat pretty much upright. I've noticed, Graham, the Honda Marine and ASCC like to sail with a little bit of windward heel all the time, even in lighter stuff. Winning Group more going for the dead upright route. It's all a bit of a balance issue. Which route do you prefer?
I prefer the winning one, actually, and not Winning Group. I mean, the leaders. I just think that they sail the boat really well. It's a bit deceptive here. The leading boats are sailing into the fresher breeze, so they're getting that advantage straight away. And of course, Honda's first in, and ASCO's very close to them.
Yeah, and just behind us, that's SMEG. That's the boat in 4th position. A little bit more breeze ahead. If we look up at the top mark, our leader's probably 2.5 minutes away, 3 minutes away. And as Graham said, it's a little bit more wind ahead. All the time you look upwind, it looks just a little bit fresher. They get into it every time, they accelerate a bit. And then we'll see what happens downwind. So situation stays the same. Honda with a not a comfortable lead by any means. Wouldn't take much of a mistake downwind, but Honda with about a 10-boat lead from Asco. As you can see in front of us now, there's our two leaders with Sydney Heads framed in the background, and then a little bit of a gap, probably more like 25 boat lengths to Winning Group, who've got their own little 10-boat lead on Smeg. Bit of spacing, but these boats have got to get round this top mark for the last time. Good sets, probably head towards Nielsen, then they've got one little drive out, and then they've got to find a ley line into Shark Island. As Graham said, there is always margin for error, however much you're on top of your game. Race 1, they all want to counter. They want to get this in the bag, go home tonight and know that they're well shaped for this long series. We're still here, whether Asco were OCS and whether ACCS were as well. Josh Perevsky's sponsor, that's one of your old companies, isn't it, Graham?
Yeah, so I help look after the fleet here.
You do
Mark.
indeed, very benevolent. And just briefly, what does that company do, or did it do?
ASCC,
still do it?
ASCC is a petrochemical importer distributor, so they bring in all sorts of products for the manufacturing industries in Australia and New Zealand.
Got it. And they're sponsoring skiff sailing. Nice, yeah, nice for the fleet. Good stuff. So look, we are getting towards close to the top mark. We're going to get ourselves up there ourselves, and we're not far away at all as we just cruise past Honda Marine, looking like they're getting nicely up to the middle and top of the big rig. You can see the mainsail inverting a little bit, a bit of a gear change happening there for the crew. A lot of fullness in the sails. They're going to be trying to get rid of a bit of that with the adjustable rig that they've got, and obviously they've got outhauls and bangs, all the usual stuff. But they can adjust the shrouds on these skiffs now, and they can make quite a big difference to the amount of rig tension, which, if all the geometry is set properly, will depower and flatten that rig, keep the whole thing under control. So it's no howling gale. Let's not mislead you at home, wherever you're watching this. You might be in Australia on local time here in Sydney Harbour. It's 4 o'clock exactly in Sydney Harbour, wherever you're watching around the world, waking up early or staying up late or watching it recorded here on Sydney Harbour. It is a lovely day. The traffic is now mostly gone. 12-13 knots of breeze. We've got one leg to go after they get around this top mark. For the last time, there's big gaps developed between the fleet. That's been the story of this race so far. Big variations in pressure and in direction, and the leaders have taken full advantage of that, stretched away, and the whole fleet has become spread out through virtually half a leg of these long legs on Sydney Harbour. That's very unusual, but it's plenty tight enough at the front of the fleet. Our leader, Honda Marine, followed by Asco. We're going to watch her go around the top mark for the last time. We're not expecting her to have too much trouble. These are expert crew on board Honda Marine, but they've still got to bring it home, Graham, and it's not over till it is, as the cliche says, over.
Yeah, Mark, don't put the kiss of death on them, will you, with those comments? Yeah,
that's my job.
Jimmy owns.
I won't mention it between now and the finish. How's that, Graham?
I have got nothing on James Bury's ability to sabotage yachts. There they go, Honda Marine, nice easy bearing, not even a bangies of any sort required. Kept it level. Off they go. Let's see how the hoist goes. I suspect it'll be just fine. Yeah. Well, not their absolute best, but not a lot wrong with it. So they go around in first position. We'll just hang with them as we go down here. Second is going to be Asco. Nothing's changed. Asco's bang on the ley line as well on port, so they've got to have no dramas approaching.
Interesting there. The skipper goes in to fix whatever the problem is down the back there.
He's the lightest and the smallest. That's why you send him in. Don't want the big boys going into the middle of the boat.
Oh, that's nice.
There you go. That's good for the young kids watching this to learn and have their CrossFit ability, I guess is what you'd call it.
Jimmy, I'd also say quite interesting for a lot of the rest of skiff sailors. I'd say in 10 years of covering skiff sailing via the camera cat might have seen that maybe once, if ever.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen, but a nice little cross skills, as you said, around the crew. David, perfectly happy to hand the helm to another crew and gets inside and sorts it out and trusts that nothing untoward's going to happen. Nice, good skills from Honda Marine. So they're heading off towards Shark Island, downwind for the last time. Asco's just gone around the top mark, about a minute and a half behind. Nice clean set from James Doran's team. They go around second on the water. And it's then going to be Winning Group, who are on ley line, on the port ley line as well. And then it'll be Snag, and then ASCC, and then Birkenhead Point Marina, who are still hanging on to the back of that, well, it kind of is the leading group. The leading group itself is stretched, but I think we'll call it the leading group. And also hanging on to the back of that group is Atlantis Online, and then there's some gaps, that's for sure. You can see in these conditions, at Birkenhead Point Marina, we haven't shown them close up, Jimmy, but we've seen them, and they are hanging on in all the time, aren't they?
They've hung on. Yeah, they've hung on this race. You know, I think they've just sort of, they were the last of that group that got that puff, and you know, just as I'm trying to look over the other side to see where the rest of the fleet is, and there's still, a lot of them are yet to get to Clifton Gardens going uphill, so yeah, there's another 10 plus minutes that they've got probably to the top mark. You know, that just to give some sort of indication on how far this fleet is spread out.
Yeah, that's right. Now, winning group has also gone around the top mark and made a really nice set, so they're all falling down the same line, and then Sneg is next around and about to do her rounding. We'll just wobble my camera there, but yeah, we're just going to follow watching. We just watched Honda Marine jibe there. She was in front of us, and there we are. I got Honda Marine, and Sneg and Asco are actually coming down here on quite a nice little letdown on port jibe, so she'll be just taking a little bit of Honda Marine's lead away from her. No kind of a threat to Honda Marine right now, but just taking probably 30, 40, 50 metres out of the lead with that nice little local letdown that Asco's got. So Honda Marine driving away out into the middle of the harbour. It's a little lighter for them. We talked about Graham upwind, that the leaders were sailing into that extra pressure. Well, of course, the opposite happens downwind, doesn't it? The guys behind sometimes just come down in their own little breezes.
Yeah, they are. They are sailing in quite a lot lighter breeze here. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It might make it a bit easier to get round Shark Island, but the boats behind could just quite easily get a big puff and carry it down and close right in on these leaders.
So Honda Marine have chosen their first point. Well, I think that they jibed because it was kind of about right, but also inside them, Asco, that you're seeing on camera now, has come charging down inside them on that little local breeze that we mentioned, coming down with a puff. Honda never got this puff. Asco are making hay while the sun shines, that is for sure, and they have definitely taken a chunk of Honda Marine's lead away. Now Asco are going to have to jibe at some point. You're seeing Asco now. She can't keep going down there because that breeze, it's tempting, Jimmy, isn't it? But we know the breeze always runs out eventually. James Doran knows that. Any second now he's going to have to pick his point, but as he charges down here, he's going faster than Honda Marine. He's pointing at the target, and the lead is just diminishing all the time. Any second now, though, Jimmy, what's he going to do? Where's Asco going to go?
I'm looking at them thinking they've got a jibe, but I'm almost thinking they're just that one little step out that they might be able to push through here and slope right on the border.
On the border. We've seen boats do that, get too greedy, then regret it. But can they get away with it? Nah, let's bow up now. I think as soon as you get a man off the wire, I think you've got to come jibe out, haven't you?
You've got to, yeah.
James is thinking, if I could just stay here, but I don't think you can, my friend. There you go. No, he's trying. He's really trying to stay up in that lane. Okay, well, his advantage is now, well, he's bouncing pressure, James. Anyway, Honda Marine, in the meantime, have the breezes come to them. That breeze that Doro came down on, it has transferred itself to Honda Marine. Honda Marine, as you can see in front of us, plenty of pressure. They're on that usually favoured ley line down here. You get nice and close to Shark Island. You usually get a lift off Shark Island, and you scratch your way around the edge. That's if it goes to plan, Graham, but occasionally you might have had a couple of close calls down here. Sometimes the lift doesn't come.
Well, I'm nervous here. If they get a big puff, then they're having a barbecue on Shark Island, and so you know, you just never know. Although it's just going a little softer again, so
it's going soft for both, isn't it? So Honda look over their shoulder and they see Asco, that you're seeing in the inset picture, are to windward, but they've gone bow up, they've gone light as well.
That's exactly what Graham was talking about.
That's what Graham was saying, but if Asco get that same breeze, that could be the letdown that allows them, allows Asco to come down into Honda Marine's area. We'll have to wait and see. That's what Asco's playing for. I think Doro is also thinking he's got a big lead on the boat behind. He may as well do something different. He's giving himself a shot at actually doing something unusual, but it's not paying off for Asco. It kind of, I say it never does, it sounds easy to wise after Denver, but Jimmy, it rarely pays off up there, doesn't it?
Very, very rarely pays off.
It looks good, it looks famous, but then it all goes wrong, and that's what's happened now. Asco's caught up there, hard to drive out, but I think they're going to have to, hoping for a letdown. In the meantime, Honda Marine in front of us found the lift off Shark Island. At one point it looked scary, but the lift comes, they keep the kite up, and they've actually now made a extension. They've brought back all of the lead that they lost before, and they might have added a little bit of interest on top.
Yeah, these guys look so calm on the water. Like, are they having a vodka shot or something before they go out, Graham, or what's the story, mate? They're just way too calm for sailing 18s, especially on the busy Sydney Harbour today, that's for sure.
It appears, I don't want to put the kiss of death on them again, but it appears, you know, the last year when they were trying to win their first contest, the pressure on them was immense. They seem to be just a fraction more relaxed this year, so I hope that that counts for everything.
Well, they do look relaxed as they sail. You can see the background, that's Rose Bay in the background, Willara Sailing Club, where the Olympics was based back in 2000, and it's one of the top sailing clubs here in Sydney Harbour. Top Skiff Club, 49ers train, all sorts of stuff. This is a hot spot of Sydney Harbour high quality yachting. On the Marine showing us their own high quality skills, that is for sure. Looking calm, looking in control, looking fast, not getting too stressed when ASCO tried to take a corner cut. They stayed with what they knew best, and it has played out for the On the Marine go round. The last mark before the finish in a clear first place. They've extended on ASCO, who went in a very unconventional route. And ASCO are going to be okay, but there's no question Winning Group behind them, who went the traditional way closer to Shark Island. Winning Group have definitely taken a big chunk out of ASCO, so James Doran and his team might have got too greedy. We do talk about that a lot. You go up there, it looks wonderful, just got to be careful it doesn't come back to bite you.
Yeah.
So we're only going to find that out in a few minutes' time. On the Marine, in the meantime, are heading off to win race 1. We won't put the knockers on them yet, but looking highly likely they'll do that. But behind us, it's still looking anybody's race for 2 and 3. ASCO have jibed, they've got some pressure, but Winning Group are cutting a massive, massive corner on them. I don't think Winning Group are going to get to them, but they are going to be a lot closer than they were. That's ASCO with the red kite behind us. We might get a shot there, you can see on the inset shot now. Winning the red kite to your right, that's ASCO to your left. The white and blue, that's Winning Group. So Winning Group are yet to drive, and ASCO have crossed them, but that is much more of a contest behind. That's for 3 and 4. Gap behind them, back to the next boat. Well, we can't see the boats hidden by Shark Island. Anyway, back to our leader in front of us. On the Marine, nice race 1, to put it mildly. You don't do better than a win for the defending champions. And, well, Graham, the way they've done this win has been impressive, hasn't it? They didn't take any risks at the start. Relied on boat speed, some smart positioning. Whenever they needed to, they came back to the opposition. Never saw them hit anything that looked vaguely like a corner, but I never really saw them threaten to.
Well, I don't like to contradict you, but they haven't actually finished.
Well, you say that,
and so they haven't won anything yet.
You say that, but it's going to happen. I don't want to.
I think they can drift across from here, Graham.
Jimmy hasn't said they're going to win, so the Jinx Master has not played his cards yet. We won't let him. But no, they've looked impressive today, that's for sure.
Look, they have stayed extremely calm, and they've just picked the couple of good ones. They seem to just have a little bit of extra pace downwind, which is quite helpful.
I'd agree with that, and certainly no lack of speed upwind. Just fast. Fast is good, and keeping it tidy and being smart on the race course, that's a very potent combination. So as they approach the finish line, this is race 1 of the 2019 JJ Giltinan Skiff World Championship, sponsored today by Rag and Famish, series sponsored by the Winning Group. And today our winner is Honda Marine, current champions, and starting the series exactly as they had hoped and how they had intended. That was a siren. You couldn't hear it very clearly, but there was a siren. Congratulations, Honda Marine. So there is siren number 1. I hope they wind up the siren volume, because everyone's going to think they didn't get a hooter otherwise. Anyway, cross the line first. That's Honda Marine. And let's have a look. ASCO seem to be keeping it together for second, and Winning Group behind them. Looks like they're going to get the third, but we'll maybe hang here and see how this develops, Jimmy.
Yep. That's where we're getting up there.
Go up towards them a little bit, see how they're doing. So a big race win by Honda Marine in terms of distance, in terms of time. They've finished by over a minute, and they're full ASCO a fair distance away. Plenty of spectators and powerboats out, as you can see. But in the end, these spectator boats were a factor, Graham, but we didn't see any particularly painful incidents that might have affected any particular results today? It feels like no one was too badly affected.
No, we got those couple of opening gaps occasionally, which was really surprising but very, very helpful to the 18-foot skiff fleet. Are we going to listen to see whether they get a hooter or not?
We are, try our best to try and hear here. ASCO last jibe in to the finish. I think they'll be listening as well.
There's a hooter. It was a hooter. There was a siren went off as well, because the orange flashing light on top of the start boat indicates. So we'll have to wait for confirmation, because I know they were still discussing that.
Well, as I said before, I thought ESCO was okay, and they were the most advanced boat. So hopefully that's what's occurred.
So ASCO crossed the line second, and we hope for them just because they sailed nice. I hope they get that. I hope that race sticks for them. And if there was a siren, and Graham's certainly eyeballs reckon they were okay, let's hope that is the case. So if someone was over, there's still a mystery quite who it was. It is possible, of course, that the flag got put up in error. It does happen. You can put it up. You can put it, as long as they put it down again, then it's as long as nobody went back, nobody was actually negatively affected, so the result will stand. Third across the line is the winning group.
Well, they're going to cross the line. They're trying to soak down there.
There we go.
Finally across the line.
And they get a siren and they get the flashing light as well. So the first three all look good. Winning group finish race number one in third position. That's a counter and some. Next up is Smeg. Smeg, just impressive all day, I think. Well, as all these boats are, but Smeg's hanging into this group all the time. A counter as well for Michael Coxon and his team. They will cross the line in fourth position. And we'll listen out again to make sure we get a siren. And well, we're nice and we're super close to the committee boat. We can actually see if they press the button. We're so close. We'll make our life easy. Jimmy, you've had an update for the race officer. Dougie, what's the story?
So just finally caught up with Dougie. So for all the viewers at home, there were no boats over.
Oh,
so
sorry, we gave you palpitations, but there were two guns, but for whatever reason, no one was over. So that's happy days. We have no disqualifications today. ASCC crossed the line in fifth position. So kind of all the sort of boats we were saying would probably be up there. Well, the form is following, apart from Finport. We would have expected Finport to have been right in this mix, but we know she had a problem. Well, she just got stuck at the first beat at the top on the right-hand side. Everyone else of the boats, we'd imagine. And no sign of the rest of the fleet. So as we get to the end of our day, there are more boats still to come downwind. Birkenhead, Point Marina, and Appliances Online will be the next finishers. A lot more racing to come in the 2019 series. The full results will get posted on the club's website. And as you know, there will be a highlights video which will be posted on social media. And tomorrow, race 2 will be bringing you from Sydney Harbour. 2:15, we will be live in the park. 2:30, the Camera Cat goes live for race number 2 on Sunday. And from the Camera Cats, thank you for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much to our special guest, Graham Catley from New Zealand. Great to have you on board, Graham. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I did. It was a fantastic day. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Great to get the Kiwi view. A lot of things we didn't talk to Graham about the Kiwi view, but I'll interview him this week, don't worry. Jimmy Berry, keeping us safe and in great position. Thank you. And Michael Giltinan, yet again, showing us the pictures that matter, keeping the whole tech side together, and all the rest of the crew that help us make this happen. We are up one second. We're just going to a little reversal of plan. We are going to better stay out a little bit longer. We thought we had a little bit of a technical challenge, but forget that. We're going to get the last couple of races while we're here. Let's stay out on the race course. All we said before is still true. Graham was a great guest, and James did drive the boat well, and we are going to be live tomorrow, but we're still live right now. We're just going to pick up the next couple of race boats that are here. So, as we said, Birkenhead Point Marina, great day for them. I'm not sure they're expecting to finish quite as well as they did, but I could be big unfair to them. And then Appliances Online, and I think Brett Van Munster will be pretty happy with that performance on the kind of conditions that are not particularly his favourites.
Exactly. Yeah, the Appliances Online, you know, they've really wanting the heavy weather. They've done really well to get to not far off the podium. You know, for them, I think that'll be a keeper. So Brett Van Munster will be super happy.
And then the next two finishes are going to be John Winning Senior on Yandu. We'll just see them in distance. That's the red and blue spinnaker you can see, and behind them a fast finishing Finport, but Finport hoping that is not a counter for them.
Well, yeah, I think Keegan will be hoping that that's definitely a discard for him.
He will be. I don't think you're going to be able to win this year's series with a finishing result that's outside of single figures. And that's just where he's finishing. So crossing the line, there is Yandu getting across the line. Going to hear a siren for her. And the Finport getting a big gust at the end, just managing to get the right side of the buoy. That would have made a bad day worse, wouldn't it? And then managed to take out that buoy. So we finally get Finport across the line, and then the Kitchen Maker is next, coming downwind as well. You just see her firing down here with her white spinnaker. And then there's a really big gap after that. Here comes the Kitchen Maker Caesarstone with the white spinnaker. She's the next to come, and then further back I can see Vintech, and I've got Rag and Famish. Our sponsor of the day is just 3 boats away. There's the Kitchen Maker. They've all had their challenges today, that's for sure, and I think the Kitchen Maker will probably be a little disappointed, Jeremy. Do you think that's probably fair? They've been super competitive in just these sort of conditions, but maybe the step up to the World Championship level with 25 boats, the extra pressure, maybe that's just a bit too much for them today, but let's hope they pull it together tomorrow.
I think they'll be fine, Mark. You know, just obviously first big race jitters has obviously got to them a little. You know, being stuck back in that big chasing pack for so long, you know, depends who gets the break, who doesn't get the break.
So Kitchen Maker do well, and the next boat is Alex Veiling Seatech, and just to bring you up to date, very pleased to say that the boat after is the Rag and Famish, today's daily sponsor, and so we are going to wrap it up today. Thank you so much for joining us. I won't read you the thank yous, the end result, just to say tomorrow, Sunday, race 2, we are live at the park at 2:15 local time in Sydney. We are live at 2:30. We will get a race winners interview in the can in the next half an hour. That'll be played tomorrow. And we hope you can join us tomorrow wherever you are. You can get us live on Facebook, live on YouTube, or the recorded version on YouTube when it suits you at your leisure. Thank you for being with us today. Goodbye from Sydney Harbour, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 2.